Sagas of valor and violence, of breakneck action and hair-raising adventure that have endured from the age of legend.
The mightiest band of warriors the world has ever known.
There are many characters and heroes in the Bible, but possibly the strongest is the Nazarite, the rebel against the Philistines, Samson. Samson was born an Israelite under Manoah and his wife. However, Manoah's wife was infertile and could not have children. After an angel of God appeared to Manoah and his wife and told her several rules, she would become pregnant with Samson. These rules included not drinking alcohol or eating unclean foods. The angel then disappeared by ascending in fire back up to heaven. Samson's power comes from the Spirit of the Lord coming onto him and possessing his body. This allows Samson to perform incredible feats of superhuman strength.
Behold, the power of God.
Samson was strong enough to take hold of city gate doors with his bare hands. It is the Spirit of the Lord that allowed Samson to become legend. When the Lord in his body told Manoah and his wife that Samson should travel to Timnah for a wife, they refused but ultimately gave in. On this journey he found a lion. Using the Spirit of the Lord, he ripped the lion apart like a young lamb. Kind of a strange comparison, but that's just me. Soon, a swarm of bees and their honey had made a home in the lion's corpse. In Timnah, when Samson feasted at his marriage, he told his 30 companion men a riddle for 30 sets of clothing. He said, out of the eater, something to eat. Out of the strong, something sweet. Unable to figure out the answer, the men went to Samson's wife for the answer. She finally told after crying for Samson's help. Why cry? Well, the companion men kind of threatened to burn down the house of Samson and Manoah. When the men returned with the answer, Samson furiously went to Ashkelon to get 30 sets of clothing for the men. He then gave his wife to the men. Samson did get his revenge when he tied up 300 foxes by their tails, set them on fire, and set alight the grain fields of the Philistines. The Philistines were, perhaps rightfully so, angry, so when they heard it was Samson, they burned his wife and her father to death. Samson took revenge and just slaughtered them. Hiding in his cave at Etam, Samson found an army of 3,000 Judean men had come for his arrest. He accepted, only to find an army of Philistines awaiting him. Angered, Samson took the jawbone of an ass, or donkey, and slaughtered 1,000 Philistine men. Samson's power, as discussed, comes from the Spirit of the Lord, but it is the same Spirit that grants other people power in biblical stories. So, even though Samson has relatively few feats in his life, we can gather his power through what others have done. Perhaps the greatest feat in biblical history was the parting of the Red Sea by Moses. He elevated the enormous Red Sea and kept it there long enough for the entire slave population of Egypt to cross. The energy needed to do so has been calculated, and it would take 174 tons of TNT equivalent to part the Red Sea. Since Moses had the assistance of God while doing so, we know Samson is capable of blows with the same capacity. Back to the story. In Gaza, when Samson once went to find a prostitute, the people crowded around him as he slept and wanted to kill him. But Samson awoke early. In the dead of night, Samson went and took the doors of the city wall and took them to the hills of Hebron, far away. But in Sorek, Samson found a woman and fell in love with her. This woman would be his greatest enemy, his ultimate undoing, Delilah. Then the Philistines went to Delilah and bribed her with 1,100 silver coins. Delilah tried to find the source and weakness of Samson's superhuman strength. First, they tried tying him with 7 wet bowstrings. It failed since he broke them. Second, they tried new ropes never used. It failed as Samson broke them. Third, they tried to weave his braids into fabric. It failed as Samson pulled the pin that held the fabric. Finally, after much pleading by Delilah, Samson told that his hair could be shaven. If so, Samson would be as weak as any other man. This was true. Delilah shaved Samson's hair and left him for the Philistines. When the Philistines came, Samson was powerless. They captured him, gouged out his eyes, and put him in work in a grain mill. But Samson refused to back down. The hair simply regrew, and so did his power. By the time his hair had regrown, he was called in for entertainment of the Philistines. In his moment of triumph and glory, Samson put his hands on the great pillars of the temple and collapsed them. Thus the leaders of the Philistines died with Samson, and he killed many more in death than in life. He judged Israel for 20 years.